I think most of the people have joined the meet. So let's start the session. I'll go on with welcome address. Good evening, everyone. I'm Soundarya, PR and Outreach Manager of AWS Cloud Club St. Joseph's Group of Institution. A very warm welcome to episode 10 of AWS Cloud Club St. Joseph's Group of Institution. We are thrilled to have you all here today as we dive into the world of PowerShell automation and its incredible capabilities for managing AWS environment. Today, we have the privilege of learning from Naveen Kumar, a senior DevOps engineer and the MongoDB user group leader. With years of experience in automation and cloud technologies, Naveen has been a key figure in DevOps community, and we are excited to hear his insights and practical knowledge on how PowerShell can transform our cloud workflows. I encourage you all to actively participate, ask questions, and make the most out of this session. So, without any further ado, let's start the session. Naveen sir, you can start the session.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Andrea. Hey, hello guys. Hello everyone. So, is my audio clear? Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir, it's audible, sir.
Awesome. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Okay, so like as Soundarya introduced, so my name is Naveen. So I have like about a decade plus of experience in the IT field, and I'm currently working as a senior DevOps engineer for a company called Online Solutions. So I handle mostly the database related automation tasks, and I predominantly work on SQL Server and MongoDB, and I do work on all three clouds. Okay, so that's what I do. And apart from that, I'm an active contributor to the community. So I'm one of the leader for the MongoDB user group in Bangalore, and I also participate in other community events, and that's about me. Okay, let's jump into the session. So I'll quickly show you like what I thought of covering in this part two. I think it will be a two-part series. So this is just for first part. So here is the high-level items like what I thought of covering. Just a quick introduction about PowerShell, like how you can get familiarized with basic commandlets and like any other programming language, right? Like how to use parameters, how you could select, and how you could, put data into a variable, how you can make use of it. At the end, we'll be in a position like where you could write your own custom scripts to manage things. Okay, this is a high-level agenda. But before we jump into anything, right? So few things like whenever you have any doubts or anything, feel free to like unmute and ask the question because I don't want it to be in one way communication. So it is good if we have a lot of people interacting so that we'll get to know a lot. So that's about it. So to start with, okay, so I would like to know from you all, like how many of you have used PowerShell or have heard about PowerShell before? You could raise hand, or if you want to talk also, you could do. Okay. Okay, I see few hands going up. So anyone wants to, say like what do you know about PowerShell? What do you think PowerShell is?
So
It's
PowerShell is built around .NET framework.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Bash is for Linux, we have a PowerShell for Windows. Yeah, scripting language and command line.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Like I think someone else was also about to say something.
it's a scripting tool. So we
Mm-hmm.
use script language for like instead of using coding, we'll give everything as a command. So that for that we'll use a platform. So that's about partially.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So yeah, that's also right. So PowerShell is like a scripting platform. It can be used for scripting, like automating things in Windows, and it is also supported in Linux as well with the recent availability of .NET Core. Okay, like as Krishna mentioned, I think Krishna is the one who
Yeah,
spoke.
it's Krishna.
So yeah. you mentioned, right? So it is built with the .NET framework with .NET Core available on Linux. So PowerShell is now also available on Linux. So using PowerShell, you could automate like whole bunch of different things. But yeah, initially it was like more adaptable to the Windows platform. Along with that, like you could also manage cloud like AWS, Azure, or GCP, or even your other softwares like it could be SQL Server or Active Directory. Like there are a whole bunch of different things using which you could manage with just with the PowerShell. In fact, like I'm planning to do. So this you see a project, right, which I thought of like showing you how you could build some real world like use case or code. So what I thought is like we'll do write a custom script using which we are going to manage servers across multi-cloud, like be it Azure and AWS, or we'll try to add GCP also. I'll show you like how you could build such codes at the final part. That's what our end objective is going to be. So to reach to that point, we have to be strong with the basics, like how this PowerShell works. Okay, that's what we are going to see today. I'm not going to say like what we'll cover today, but this is going to be the whole agenda. So we'll see like up to what extent we can cover today, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so PowerShell by default, okay, comes with your operating system itself. You don't have to do any sort of installation or anything. Okay, so all you can do is this is just a server which I'm showing it to you, and it's there in my local as well. If you just search for PowerShell, you'll get something like this. So just for the simplicity, I thought like we'll use a server. So when I search for PowerShell, this is what I get. Okay, it's Windows PowerShell, PowerShell ISE, and PowerShell x86. So PowerShell is like a terminal. Okay, you can think of like it's very similar to your command prompt, but it can do a lot more. Okay, so what I have opened on the right side is a command prompt, and what you see on the left side of the screen is a PowerShell window. So you don't see much difference, right? So both are like it's just like a terminal. And if I go back to the same search, right, you also see something called ISE. ISE is nothing but it's like a IDE which you get like a scripting environment. So integrated scripting environment. Like you could also use VS Code if you are familiar with VS Code. You could also use that to write PowerShell scripts. We'll come to the ISE part in a later period. Okay, for now let's stick with this. Okay, so just to get familiarized with something, right? So the general naming format of PowerShell commands will be with a verb and a noun. That's how the common standard would be, like naming format would be. Okay, so right now whatever you see here in the front, maybe I'll minimize this. So in command prompt, like you have like basic commands, right? You could do dir, or you can do cp to copy things, right? Similarly, like I can also run most of my command line commands in the PowerShell. For example, here also if I run dir, it still works. Okay, so that is because like there is a separate reason why your normal commands also work. And if I do ls, okay, if you are from Linux background, right? So I can just type ls. Ls will also work, but I mean both are doing same thing. But what I want to tell is some of your Linux commands is also going to work. Okay, so to start with, okay, you should know like where the help is. Like in case of Linux, you will use man, right, for help. Similarly in PowerShell, still as I said, Linux command is also going to work. So I can just type man here. Okay, wait, let me do one thing. So by the way, like, are you all able to read what is there on this console? Is it better, or you want me to increase the font? I just want a quick check on this.
In case you can increase it
Uh,
a little bit.
It is okay, right?
No, so
you can increase little bit, sir.
Okay, perfect. Let me quickly do it. I think I'll increase some more. Let's do something like this. Is it better now?
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's okay, sir.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what I was saying is, I was talking about man, right? So in Linux also you have man. In PowerShell also this is going to work. Why it is working is something you are going to understand in some time. So what I will do is I'm just telling I don't know anything. I'm looking for some help. So why I took man is I can also do help on help, that will also work, but I just took man because let's assume like if someone is familiarized with Linux, this would be helpful. So I just do man and help. So I told you, right, the PowerShell commandlets, in PowerShell we call it as commandlets. Okay, so you see like a verb and a noun combination. So here, when I did man help, I got something like get hyphen help. Okay. So as of now, we don't know what it is as well, but we know, okay, it is giving some commandlet. Okay. What I will do is I'm going to run get hyphen help now. By the way, like PowerShell supports tab completion. So if I just do get hyphen he and hit a tab, it will automatically complete. So that's what I just did. And let's see what this looks like. This is like a manual. Okay, get help is nothing but like it's a PowerShell help system. Okay, now I know there is a commandlet. Okay, if you see the description, displays help about Windows PowerShell commandlets. So let's pick some random word, right? So let's say I want to check something about service, for example. Okay, service is nothing but in Windows you have something called a set of service which will be running, right? So this is what like the list of service. Let's say I'm looking for something like service. So what I'm telling is get help, and I'm putting a star. This is like a wildcard search. That's what I'm just doing, and I'm hitting an enter. It's giving me a bunch of commandlets now. Okay. As of now, like we have no idea what these commandlets are. Is there any? Why man keyword? Why not just help? Yeah, I mean help is also going to work. Okay, let me just show help as well. Help of help, I'm just doing the same thing, like I did man of help, help of help. Okay, I'll tell you why this works in some time. So it is get help, it's returning the same output, just to answer your question. Okay, so let's go back to what we were checking, right? If I press up arrow, it's going to give the previous commands, whatever I have executed. So I want to check something related to service. Okay, it gave me a bunch of commandlets. Now I told you like the PowerShell will be having this common naming format, right? So if you see all the first letter is like it's to do something or some action item, get, new, remove. This is the standard format you would be seeing across all the commandlets. Again, like you could also write your own commandlets, which we'll be seeing it in the later session. Okay, now I know there is a command called get hyphen service. Okay, let's see if we can locate it in this, or else I'll directly search for that. I'll do get hyphen service. Okay, this is a commandlet which I know it exists, so I'm just directly taking this as an example to save some time. Right now, I just did a get help on a specific commandlet. So get help is always going to be useful for you to explore if you want to look for anything. Okay, it's not like always a service as well. I can also pick, let's say I want to check something related to disk. It's going to give you a list of output, and you can randomly pick any commandlet if you want to know what it does and start exploring it. This is how you could learn with the get help itself to see what each commandlet does. Okay, you don't have to go outside or go to internet and check. So now by looking at this description, right, it gets the services on local, or it can also talk to a remote computer. This is where PowerShell actual ability comes in. Okay, it's not something you could do things only on one machine. Okay, you can do things on thousands of servers as well. Okay, like any other scripting language as well. What I will do is right now we just know it's going to give the list of services. What I will do is I just want to run this commandlet and see what output we actually get. So if you see, this is similar to what you see here in the services console. Like these are the list of services which is in the server. Okay, that is what this output has given. Get hyphen service commandlet has given us. Let's pick some random service, right? I'll take Amazon SSMA agent. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, SSM agent. It is in running state. That is what you see here as well, and it is giving you the display name and status. Okay, but whereas like if you see in the services console, you have whole bunch of other status like what is the startup type, log on as is using which account. But the PowerShell commandlet is just giving us only these three info. So you might be thinking like how I can get the other details, right? By with the PowerShell. So which you'll get the answer in some time. But for now, just remember this is the like default output which you get with this command. Okay. Now let's explore few more commands. So I told you like get hyphen service is one command like which you could run to get the list of service. Similarly, I can do something like get hyphen process. Okay, this is going to be similar to what you see in task manager. So these are the process you see, right? Maybe if I open resource monitor, so these are the different process which is running on the system. Okay, so now the get process, or first I'll show you the help maybe. I'm doing get hyphen help and get hyphen process. I want to know what this commandlet is going to do. So it says get the process that are running on the local computer or a remote computer. Again, this commandlet, using this commandlet, you can do something operations on the local and as well on a remote system as well. Now let's see it in action, like how the output looks like. I'll remove this get help and we'll do get process. So now you could see, right? So it is going to give me the list of processes which is running in my system, and what is the handles, what is the private memory and working set, CPU, what is the process ID. So if I take this Amazon SSM agent, right, it is running with process ID 3012 as an just a random example I'm picking. Okay, if I go back to this window, let's quickly see if whatever we are seeing there is true or not. I'll minimize this. You see, right, 3012. That's what you see here. Again, like this is having a whole bunch of different information which we are not seeing it here. Again, you might be wondering like again this is also giving some set but not all compared to what you see in UI. Okay, we'll again like we'll see that in a while. So these two commandlets get hyphen process, it ran without anything. I don't have to give any other input for this command to work. Now I'm going to pick another commandlet. So let's say you might be familiar with this Windows logs, right? Event viewer logs. Okay. Now we'll see like how we can fetch this log. For example, whenever you are dealing anything with Windows operating system, you would be always looking at this event viewer log. Okay, if you are troubleshooting anything. So in that case, like these are Windows related logs which you look. One is application and system, and again you have for security setup, etc. Now I'll show you like how you could fetch this log with PowerShell. So the commandlets, whatever we have seen till now, it didn't ask us anything. Now you see what happens. I know this is a commandlet, okay? It is get event log. If I hit enter, right, it's not going to return anything. It will ask me, I have to give something. Okay, it's asking for some inputs from me so that it can display the required result. So it's asking what log name you want. Okay. So for example, if you remember the previous commands, whatever we ran, right? Get service. That commandlet also could have asked which service you want to look for. Okay. But that commandlet didn't ask us because that's how it was written. Okay. The code. So why I'm saying this is when you write your own commandlets, right? You could define all these things depending on our requirement. I'll also show you that when we reach up that point, how we are going to write our own commandlets and all, so that you will understand like what are these parameters. So these are like, this is what you call it as a parameters. Okay, it is asking for some input. I'm going to say system, for example. So if you don't know like what value it should, it is supported, you can always go back and look at the help. But just for your information, this commandlet will expect these things as an input. You see application, security, setup, system, right? So in this case, I'm giving a system, which means it is going to give me this logs what is displayed in this system section. Okay. Now if I hit enter, it's going to return that output. Okay, so maybe since I have zoomed it, you see the output like this. Someone has a question? Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so this is how your output. I mean, let's forget about the formatting and all for now. But just I just want to show you the intention of running this command is to show you there are some commandlets which will not run by default. Okay, it will expect for some parameters. So there are different types of parameters which are available in PowerShell. Okay, few parameters are like optional. Okay, what I will do is like let's go back to the get help. Okay, what we'll do is we'll do get help of process. Now, so far we have seen this name, synopsis, and we haven't talked about syntaxes yet. That's what I'm going to talk about it now. Okay, so I told about parameters, right? So whatever you see in this get help with hyphen, right? These are parameters. Hyphen name is a parameter. Hyphen computer name is another parameter. Hyphen file version info is one parameter. Module is one parameter, and there is a bunch of common parameters also which is available. Okay, which we'll see. Like I'll show you like what are those common parameters, but again, like you will see different set of syntaxes are given in this. Okay, you can say treat this as a different syntax sets, I would say. Okay, this is one set of syntax. If you see each syntax set, right, one parameter which you see here will not be available in this. Okay, which means, for example, let's see in this case, right, what is available, you see id, right? So id has one option, but you don't see id here, id parameter here, which means you cannot use id along with this name. Okay, so that's what this indicates. So there are different combinations of syntax sets which is available for you to use. So I cannot use id and name together. That's what this indicates. Like that, if you see all of these, there are different types of parameter sets which you get. So mostly, like by looking at this, you will know what all parameters are available. Okay, that's the idea. So I was talking about different types of parameters. So one is optional. Okay, which means I don't have to give any parameters by default. I mean, it's going to run. For example, this get hyphen process commandlet was not needing any parameters. We directly ran it. The second parameter type is like mandatory, which you saw in the get event log commandlet, right? And the third one is like optional. Okay, optional is like you don't have to specify it, but if you want, you can add that for further filtration. So we will see all about like how to identify which parameter is optional, which is mandatory. I'll show you like how you could identify using the get help system. Okay. Now let's go back to get help. Okay. If I'll do what I'll do is I'll do get help of help for now, and let's just run this now. I want to show you like what all options we have with get help. Okay. So if you see, um, it says get help hyphen name, or it can also, you also have something called category, and there is a option to look for parameters as well. Okay, what I will do is maybe I'll show you the other version of GitHub. So the example which I took is get hyphen process, right? What we will do is we'll do this. What I can add is I can add full. Okay, get help is also having a parameter. Okay, so this type of parameter, right? If I just give hyphen full, I don't have to supply any value for this parameters. Okay, this is one type of parameter which you will see. Okay, now let's run and see this. This time you will be seeing a good amount of information being shared in the get help. Okay, when compared to like when you run get hyphen help hyphen process, you get very limited info, right? Like you hardly get some syntax, description, and related links. That's all you get, and remarks. But when we add get hyphen full, this is equivalent to what you see in the online documentation. Okay, what I will do is maybe I'll take this and maybe we'll put it in a browser and see what uh, so here you have syntax, which you saw in the get hyphen help, and description examples. Okay, so let's see. We go back to this output. Here also you have examples in this output. Whatever I just pulled. So you see example one. Get the list of active process on the local computer. So this is what you will see in this documentation as well. This is the complete output. So now the interesting thing about this, right? It's going to give you what all parameters are available. So one thing which I showed you is from the syntax you could identify anything with this hyphen is a parameter. But if you come down with the full output of the get help, okay, now it's you have a separate section for parameters. So look at this part, okay. The initial part tells what this parameter is about, and then if you look at this part, it's going to tell whether this parameter is required or not, whether it is a positional parameter, what is the default value, accepted pipeline. I haven't talked about pipeline yet, which we'll talk in some time. Whether it accepts wildcard characters. Okay. Now, this output, whatever you see here, is for get hyphen process. Now, what I will do is I'll quickly show you the get help or get event log. Okay. Let's quickly check that. Maybe I'll do full. Let's quickly see. I'll go to the parameters section. Or yeah, let's look at the parameter section. So it supports a bunch of parameters like after, as base object. Let's go to the direct log name, right? I want to show you the required parameters and positional parameters. Let me come down. So if you see, for example, instance ID, okay, instance ID is nothing but what you see here, right? Event ID. I'll show you in the commandlet as well. But each instance will have an event ID. Okay, that's what it indicates. So if you see, this is a positional parameter. I will show you in demo like what a positional parameter. But just remember, there is something called positional parameter. When I show you an example, you will easily understand what this indicates. But for now, just remember what I will do is maybe I'll just take this just as an example. I'll put it in a notepad. So we'll come back to this output in a while. And if you see the log name, right, this is a mandatory parameter. Okay. Wait, I think for some reason this output is not so good. What I will do is I'll come to my local get hyphen help get event log. I'll do full. Okay, let me go back to the parameters section. And yeah, you see here, right? Log name. Okay, this is a required parameter. You see true, and its position is 0, and default value is none. Accepted pipeline input false. Accept wildcard characters true. Okay, now let's copy this. Let's go back to the server. Okay, right now we know I just took these two intentionally. What I will do is let me go back to this window. Let's do get hyphen event log. Okay, if you want to call the parameter at runtime, you will just say hyphen log name. We know log name is a parameter, right? So I'll say system instead of like if I'm not supplying this and if I press enter, it's going to ask me here. So to avoid that, I'm just giving it here. I'll just go with system and there is one more parameter called newest. Okay, newest is nothing but it's going to give the recent. If I want to say 10 entries from the system logs, this will give. I'm just giving this so that it's not going to flood the terminal with all the messages. If I do something like this, you see this output, right? Okay, now what we have just done is we have pulled the recent 10 events from the system logs. Now we were talking about parameters. Okay. Now if you go to this statement, I told you one is a required. Now you know how to look from the get help with full option to see what parameters are required by looking at this. There is something called positional also which I told. Okay, position is 0. So if you remember, like in general programming concept, right? You have like if you have a array of objects, okay, it will be indexed, right? 0 1 2 3, like that the indexing will happen, right? Something like that. So it starts with position 0 and 1, like that it goes on. So what this indicates is if I am declaring, let's say if there is a positional parameter, I don't have to call what parameter it is if I'm giving it at the very first beginning. Okay, for example, if I'm writing something like this, get hyphen event log system, I don't have to explicitly define what is the parameter name. PowerShell will automatically identify it is the parameter for log name and it is going to run. Let's say if I just interchange this, I'm removing this system from here and I'm calling it here. In this case, this is not in a positional parameter, right? I'm just calling it second, which means it's going to throw an error. Wait, I think this is working. Let me do one thing. Wait, I just want to see what version we are running. PS version. One second. Okay, I'm running with 5.1. Ideally, like this should not work. I don't know, like if something is changed, but positional parameter indicates like if I give something after the positional, it's not going to take. Or let me try something else. Wait, I'll do instance ID. Instance ID, and instance ID is like this is what you see here, and let's copy and paste it. And if I put system here, still it works. Okay, ideally like this should not work. I don't know, like if something got changed, maybe I'll check this and I'll tell you. This is something strange for me as well. But in general, positional parameter is something like whatever you give at the beginning, right? It will look for that order and it will give the output. Now we also saw something for instance ID. This was taking position as 1, right? What I will do is now maybe let's try this. I don't have to, as I said, I don't have to put the. Okay, now it's giving the error. Okay, I was expecting this, but it didn't. Since I was explicitly calling that parameters, it was working maybe. So right now, if you see get hyphen event log, this is it's trying to take this as the first parameter. Okay, for log name, and it is throwing this error. Now what I will do is I'll just remove this system from here, and I'll put it here. I'll type the system here. Now you see, right? It's working. Okay, maybe since I explicitly defined this newest 10, it was excluding all of them, and it was working. Maybe if I do something like this, it might break. If I remove this instance ID, right, then it will not know which one is first. But rather, if I change this, if I do something like this would work because by default it will exclude all the parameters whatever you have given with name parameter name, and it's going to take this as position 0 and this as position 1. Okay, this is how you define positional parameters. Now with this concept, right, let's go back to help and I'll go to the get service. commandlet. As of now, we know only, I mean, few commandlets. So I'm just going to take the examples with these commandlets only. Okay. Now, this is a get help for get service. Okay. Let's look at the parameters. I mean, in this, I know like for sure there is no required parameters, but there is a positional parameter which I will show you. Let's go down. You see this, right? Name. Okay. If you see hyphen name is a positional parameter which is given at position 0, which means, and if you see the data type, okay, another thing which I want to talk is, let's go back to the syntax itself. So each of these parameters, whatever you see, it is then defined like what data type this will support. For example, this is a string, and if you see a square bracket here, which means you could supply a list of objects. I can supply more than one computer name to this parameter. That's what this indicates. And let's check name. Okay, if you look at this name, this also supports string as a data type, and I can supply more than one service. So what I can do is, right now I know name is a positional parameter. What I will do is get hyphen service. I know there is a service called VSS. Let's write. Now, if you look at this output, I didn't explicitly say what parameter I'm looking for, but it automatically detected it is a parameter for name since it was a positional parameter, and it returned only the status of volume shadow copy service. Similarly, like I know there is a service called winner. So the reason for having that, if I go back, if you see this one, right, I told you can supply more than one value. So name also was a string where you could supply more than one value because it supports this array of objects. What I will do is, I'm going to give another service name as well, just with comma separated. So now you see it was able to give. So this is how you could make use of help system to understand what a commandlet can give, what kind of input it is expecting, how you could put it. So in real time or in real time, if you are writing some code, right, I would always recommend not to do something like this. Okay, though you know this is the positional parameters, from the coding standpoint, it is always recommended to give the parameter name here and then define your filter, like whatever value you are going to supply. Okay, so that if you give this code to someone else, they will also understand what exactly you are doing. That's why it is always recommended to use the complete parameter name. If you're using the parameter name, 99% you don't have to worry about what is positional parameter or etc. So it's going to by default pick and process it. Okay. So any questions so far? Let me look at the chat. What is the number 178? Why do we use that value? So, Abdul, like which one you're referring to? Maybe you can unmute and ask, or you can clarify your question. Why is that WinRM command used for previous system? Okay, so I'll go on there. So why is that WinRM command used for? So WinRM is nothing but Windows remote management. Like if you want to, like there are different ways using which you could manage. Okay, so when we talk about PowerShell remoting and all, at that time all the PowerShell remoting will happen through Windows remote management. And if you are aware of Ansible configuration management tool, so if you want to write an Ansible playbook to talk to Windows Server and do something, it happens through WinRM protocol. Okay, so that is a completely a different topic, and there is a separate configuration which you could do to set up WinRM service. But Abdul, I didn't. Okay, previously you said 178. I'm asking what is the value of that number. I don't know when I said 178. Maybe if someone else can also help, that will be helpful because I
I
didn't get.
guess he's referring to some process ID.
Okay, process ID. Yeah,
Maybe, I guess that's it.
let's see. Is it? I think I told 3012, but like, why did we use that number? Okay, Abdul, I don't know like where I used it. Maybe if you can tell me that, I will be able to tell. I'm not getting that point actually. If you're talking about this process ID, this is a ID which the system itself is going to assign it. Okay, I don't know if that is what you're asking, or you could unmute as well if possible.
Abdur, if you don't mind, can you unmute and ask your question?
I mean, guys, feel free to unmute. Okay, let's not keep it more formal. The more questions you ask, then I can convey it. And if you are okay with whatever we have covered so far, that also you can just tell all good, so that I'll know we are going in the right track. Or you could use the reaction button if you don't want to type.
Sir, hello. Sir,
Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
actually, you used in previous like system 1 2 3. It shows error like you used. I am asking like why do we use that once on? What is the number use of it? Like why do we use that number in that thing?
Okay, so okay, this one you are saying, right? Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 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 fine. So what? I'll just took that as a random example. Okay, let me. I got it. Let me just show it. So what I just did
By
it.
using that word, okay.
Yeah, got it. I'll tell you. I got now. Now I got it. Thanks. So I'll just say newest 10. Okay, or this time let me change it. Instead of system logs, I'll put application logs. So this instance ID, okay, or let me do this thing, okay. I'll pick this number, for example, 326. Let me go to Windows event logs and let's go to application. I'll say filter current log. I'll put the ID. You see this events, right? You see in this event ID is 326, okay, and it's giving this message. Now this is an event ID for some event. Okay, I just randomly took that number just to show you how you could apply that filter, because instance ID, if you remember the get help output, it was a positional parameter, or instead of running I had this here. So if you see, this was a positional parameter. To show that as an example, I just randomly took an instance ID. It's not like I should always use that. Maybe just to show you, I'll pick another event ID. So I know, let's see if I have any event ID called 1074. I'll tell you what is this event. So this event ID, right? If you want to look for any server restart, Windows server restart, right? This is one common event ID which we use. So if you look at the message, what it is giving, it will tell you like whether it was a shutdown or a restart. Was there any comments which was given? Okay. Now, just to show another example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run. Maybe I'll clear this. What I'll do, get event log. I'll say log name as system and instance ID, right? I'll say 1074. Wait, I am doing something wrong. No matches found. Wait. So, wait. Okay, anyways, I think, see, I was trying to filter for some specific events. That's the intention of checking that. But I just randomly pick. It's not like always it has to be this. It can also be this as well. For example, let's check this. You see all this file system things, right? Like it's going to give for a specific event ID basically. Okay. But again, like for 1074, why it's not working? It says no match found. Okay, I am not sure like why it has to do it. But anyways, we'll not spend more time. Wait. Is that instance ID will change or it will be permanent for those commands? So it depends on the event ID. For example, the event ID 1074, which I just told, right? That will be constant. So the general logging mechanism for Windows, it's going to be
So
constant.
okay, sir, I got it, sir. So finally, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, fine. So yeah, listen. So this it depends on the event. Okay, few events will have a common ID. If you want to track something, those things will have common event IDs. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I take this as no. But yeah, if you are not getting something, feel free to unmute and ask or put it in the chat. Okay, fine. Let's move on. So right now, you know about parameters. Okay. Now I'll go back to this one. Okay. What I will do is log name will go with system and maybe I'll just do this. I'll say newest file. So if you look at this message, right? The message, whatever you see here, it's like trimmed. It's not giving you the complete output. And I don't want all this other data. Okay, like let's say I don't want this index or instance ID. I just only want time, entry type, and message. Okay. Now in PowerShell, you could select only the required data, whatever you want. Okay. This is where pipeline is going to come. As of now, we know commandlet parameter, how you could explore a commandlet, what it is doing. So there is a symbol called pipeline. Okay, it is just above the enter in your keyboard. If you press shift, and that's the pipeline symbol I'm using. Okay, we have something called pipeline. So what this is going to do is this output, the output of this command get event log name system newest will be sent as an input to the next commandlet. Okay, select hyphen object is just one more commandlet using which you could select a specific property. Okay, so whatever you see here in this, okay, all these things are termed as property, and whatever output you see here, this is the value of that property. Okay, so what I can do is I'll say property, and let's say I want message alone. Okay, I'll do like this. Now you could see we just got message on alone. Okay, out of this we have got only the message. And let me do this thing. I'll do get help hyphen select hyphen object. Okay, this is a new commandlet which I just introduced. Let's look at this commandlet details. I want to show something. So let's do this thing. I'll do full. The parameter which I was using, right? Let's see what all parameters are supported here. I'll go all the way top to the parameter section. Okay. Now we used this parameter, right? And this parameter, if you see here, it is of position 0. Okay, which means I don't have to define that parameter name. So what I can do is, let's go back to this commandlet. If I remove this also, PowerShell will automatically detect it's looking for the property name and it's going to give you. Now what we have done, we have got this output, and with the pipeline, I have sent this output to another commandlet, and we have just filtered only for the message. Now you might be thinking, if I just look at this output, I just know only these columns, but there are a whole bunch of other columns which is available, which I'll tell you how you could check that. Okay, let's I'll do one more example for get service. Okay, and we know this supports name will go with few service. I'll just say VSS and winner. I'm just picking this so that it's easy to type. Now I can also pipeline this output to select object, and I'll just say give me name and status alone. So in this case, we are customizing our output now. Now, for us to find what other things are supported, there is a new commandlet which I'm going to introduce. Okay, there is something called get member. Okay, get member is going to tell what you could do with a given commandlet. So, for example, a given commandlet can have multiple properties, okay, and some of them are methods. Methods is nothing but in .NET world, if you know, like void, close, continue, like there are different methods. This indicates like what you could do with a service, okay, what actions you could do. For example, I can start, stop, pause, refresh, all those things I can do, okay, with the get service. I'll show you like how you could use the methods, but for now let's focus on the property. Okay, this is the list of properties which you have, which means I can get all of these details in my output. Okay, by default whatever I'm running, it's printing some output, right? So let's take this one, right? It's giving name and status. Now if you look at this property, right, I can use any of these properties also in my output. For example, what I will take is I'll say startup type. Okay, startup type also we had it in the default output. So let's pick something else. Can shut down, or let's take machine name, right? Let's see if that is giving what that is giving. So dot indicates local, but if you're doing something on local, a remote machine, it's going to give that IP. Let's pick few other properties. Start type. Let me take this. And now you see, right, slowly we are able to add other details. Like what you saw here in this window, there is that. So here startup type is there, right? That is what you see here now as start type. And you see manual or automatic, whether a given service is startup is set to manual or automatic. That's how you could filter. Okay, now this is one way of checking. Okay, get property, but I'll tell you other way. Okay, which is much more easy. You don't have to go through all of these things. What I will do is be it any command line, okay, until unless it is a get command which is not going to affect any of the state. What I will do is, let's say for example, I'll pick like this, okay, I'll pick a specific service, and I'll just do select star. Okay, like in SQL and all, you used to query, right, select star from some table. In this case I can just do select star. So this select star will give me all those property names. So whatever you see here, all these are property on the left side. This is on the right side. This is all values. From here, I can pick whatever details I want it to be in my code. I can pick it from here and use it. Okay, that's how easily you can do it. So, for example, if I have to do the same for get event log, right? I will do something like this: get event log. I'll give the log name, and let's say system. I'll say newest one, because I'm just building my script. Okay, I can do get member, but I'm just showing you the other way. I'll just do select hyphen object, and I'll just do a star, which means it is going to give me what other parameters are available. Okay, for example, I think okay, event ID is there, machine name is there, data is there, index, category. But don't get confused with what you see under parameters. Parameters is something which you give it to the command line. But whatever you see here is something which will be projected as an output in your output. Okay, so I can have category, number, entry type, message, right? I think one thing which I showed, right, we were looking for instance ID, but you don't see it here. Okay, few of the default, some of the commandlets, right, they have some default naming convention which you could not override. Okay, the example which I was trying to show last time, if I want to filter for 1074, which I'll show you, when I talk about filtering, okay, we have to filter for event ID 7036. Like based on event ID, you could filter. So by looking at this, you know like what all informations are there. Now let's say I want to build from this. Let's say I'm going to print at what time an event was generated and what is the source and what is a message. I can just do something like this, and let's say I want to print for last 10 events. Like this I can get. Now so if you look at this output, still this is like not giving the complete data, right? Now what we'll do is, as I told you, pipeline is going to used for sending one output to the next stage, right? Right now you have selected the data. Okay, PowerShell has another commandlet called format. Okay, I can either format the output as a table or I can format the output as a list. So you have a custom format, we will not go to that. But the default format, whatever you see for this commandlet, right? This is the format of table. Okay, if I do something like this, that is what you see. But I can change this to a list. Now you see the output. It is in a different format. So if you see now, the message is clearly visible, and that's how you could make use of the format commandlet. Okay, so this is another thing. If I'll just show it again. So just for your visibility, we are pulling this data from get event log. Then from the pipeline, we are sending it to the next phase. And once this data is filtered, we are formatting as a format list. Okay, that's what we have done. And with this is much more. I mean, this is better for readability, right? Okay, now I'll show you another example. Okay, for the pipeline especially. Let's say I'm looking for some specific service. Let me see if I have anything. Okay, I have SQL Server software installed. Okay, it is a Microsoft SQL Server. It is a database platform. So I have installed this here. Okay, now let's say I want to write a program. Okay, I want to stop all the services related to SQL. Okay, what I can do is I can put a pipeline. There is a commandlet called stop service. Okay, which is going to stop any service if you want. By looking at this commandlet, you could see, right, the pipeline whatever we have written is going to give us only this set of service. I just randomly picked, okay, so that I can show you this example. So this filtration, it completely depends on the requirement for which you are going to write this script. So what I'm doing is I'm doing stop service. If I enter, okay, it says it has a dependent service. I cannot stop, but you could override this, okay, by doing it force, which means now I have added another parameter. Now let's look at this output. I'm just showing you this as an example so that you will get some idea how this pipeline works, how in real time these things will be used. So right now, if you see all of these services are stopped, right? Now, if I want to stop as a whole, let's say I'm doing some maintenance activity, something, and after that, I want to stop all of this service. I'm going to start it. Okay, I'll just do start service, and this is going to start all of my service. That's how with a single command line you could manage like this service. This is a very simple command what I showed, but in real time you could write your own logic where you will be applying filter. Okay, I haven't told about how you could filter the data, which I'll be talking about in a while, but this is how the pipeline is going to work. So you could supply the output of one commandlet to the other commandlet and do some operations. Okay, and another thing which it's just a feature. Okay, you might not be using this whatever I'm going to show you in real time, but I'll just show you one nice thing. Okay, there is something called outgrid view. Okay, which will give you the output something like this. So if you see whatever output you are seeing, now we have got it in UI mode. Now, what we can do is this outgrid view has something called a parameter called pass through. Okay, what I will do is I can just see what happens. Like when I add the pass through, right? I'm going to do the same operation, but this time I have filtered for a set of service from this list. I want to only pass on few service to the next step. As soon as I have added the pass through, now you see on the bottom right, there are two options which got enabled, OK and cancel. So by pressing control, okay, if I press control, I can select multiple service. And what I can do is I can click on OK. So which means those three services, whatever I have clicked, only those services will be stopped. And if I run get hyphen service, you will see this. Okay, the other two services are still running, but this is stopped. Again, this is an example, okay, which I want to show you. Like this features also exist in PowerShell. Okay. Now, if I want to like do something else, let's say I want to start a specific service, I can still use the similar method and I can select these things and I can start. This will start only the service, whatever you have selected in the previous phase, and it will do. Okay. So this is about the pipeline thing. Now let's look at how you could filter the data. Okay. Now let's say I want to filter the list of service which has running states. What else services are running in my server? Okay. Let's say I want to check, build some report like that. Okay. What I will do is let's do select object and we'll say name and status, or we'll just say start type. Okay, status anyways we are going to filter, but for now let's just have it. Maybe once the script is ready, we'll remove that status. Now let's see how to do filter. For select, there is something called select object. Similarly, for filter, like how you have in SQL programming language, where, okay, I can just say where hyphen object, and within the bracket, I'll just say dollar underscore dot. This is the standard format which you have to use, and I'll say status. Um, Wait, it's not taking. Okay, let me type this. Status. Now you have this operator. Okay, you can do equal to operator, not like any other programming language. You could have a bunch of operators. So what I'm doing is, let me just go back to this command. Okay, I'll maybe copy this and put it in Notepad so that you will have a better visibility of what we are doing. Okay, I think there is a question. Can we start the service at particular time? Is there any command for that? So yes, you can. Okay, the PowerShell command net, you can schedule it from the task scheduler. In Windows, like in Linux, you have cron, right? Similarly, you have task scheduler. From here, you could schedule. You could create a PowerShell script and trigger that. Okay. Let's see. So here you could see, you could define the schedule when you want to do it, and then in the action you will be saying start a program, and you could put the script here. If you want to pass on any arguments, you could use the Windows task scheduler for doing such activities. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the basic syntax for filtering something. Okay, now dollar underscore dot status hyphen eq. Maybe I'll put this in the chat so that you can just keep it handy, so that it will be easy for you to, if you are testing something, you can make changes and try it. Okay, this is an example for filtering the object. Now let's try to implement the same for get event log. Okay, what I will do is get event log, and let's say I want to do something for system log. Let's go to the initial example which I was trying to show, right? I want to look for any event with 1074, which basically indicates at what all time a user has initiated a restart or shutdown activity, right? So let's try to fetch that data. Okay, what we will do is we'll say where object, and I'm going to do something like dollar underscore dot event ID EQ and 1074. Now this output I'm going to print it to select hyphen object and let's say time generated message. Now you see, right? These are the different times. Okay, I'll further format this output and I'll format it as a list. So now you could see this output is much more better, and you will know like at what time frame who has done restart or it was a shutdown. This is just a simple example. Now I can take this example and I can also run it across multiple servers. I mean that you will be able to do it when I cover looping concept and all. Okay, but for now, just remember like this is how you build commandlets for code for your real-time use cases. If I want to filter for something, these are the different operations you do, and you have to be very careful where you are placing the filters. Okay, because the pipeline is just going to send the output next. Let's say I just change this format. Okay, let me just copy this. Okay, and go back to I'll give you this commandlet also so that again it'll be handy if you want to try out something in your machine. Now this is the first one as the command which we wrote. Okay, I could also do the same like this. I can first have the select object and then I can filter. Okay, maybe I'll just do control C. Okay, okay, fine. Leave it. I'll come to the chat. I think there was a message. So we can interchange this. Okay, that's what I wanted to show. The problem with this, why you have to be careful is in this, let's say if I'm going with this approach, it's going to filter all the system related events, then you will select all the data, then only you're applying a filter. It is always better you do the filtration at the beginning and then select only the required data. Um, okay, was there any message or okay? Fine. So you have to be careful with the filtration. Okay, that's what I wanted to show. And like if you run this also, it's going to be same, but you will be processing larger data, right? With this approach, that's why it is better to put the filter at the beginning and send this output. Now, instead of formatting, right, I can also write this data to a file, okay, which you will be doing in real time. So what I will do is I'll just remove this format. You have something called out file, okay. I'll just say to which path I'm going to write. I'll say Windows logs.txt. Now this entire output is written to a file. So you could call or open a program with invoke item. That's what I'm doing. This is going to open the file in Notepad. But again, like this formatting is something you have to additionally do it. I didn't do the formatting here. Let's try to add that. Okay, I will do this time. I'll do a format table itself. Let's see how it works. Format table, and I'll say auto size. Let's look at the output now. Okay, it didn't format it, but yeah, let's go with the format list itself for this case. Yeah, so that I just want to show you the output in a text. Okay, again you could customize this. Right now if I run it again, right, it's going to overwrite, but if you don't want that to happen, you can say add append parameter which is going to append the output. Okay, let's say you are scheduling it through a job, you want to hit some data and write it to a file, but you don't want the older data to get appended, I mean overwritten. You could add a switch called append. Okay, that's what you could do. So I'll give this also in the command chat, just you could take it. Okay, any questions so far? I just want to take a pause. Are we good? You guys are able to follow it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll then proceed. Okay, you know now how to filter, select, and send the output to file. Now, let's talk about sorting. Okay, mm, let me just clear it. For sorting, I'll maybe take get process as an example. Okay, right now it's giving all. Okay, let's say for example, I want to write a code which is going to sort the output based on CPU usage. Okay, just give me 1 minute, guys. 1 minute. I'll just be back. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. Now this is get process, right? I'm going to let's say we want the list of process names and CPU usage. Now I'm going to do something called, let's say I know this select. Okay, if you notice, I just wrote select. Okay, but I could also write select object. I'll talk about aliases after this because the select hyphen object is the actual commandlet. Select is an alias for select hyphen object. What I will do is I'll just say print, or will not do it here. What I will do is we have something called sort object. Okay, I'll just say descending, and on what type we are going to sort. I'll say property as CPU. Okay, wait. Now, if you see this output, right, it has sorted the data based on CPU. Okay, wait, let me do it again. What we will do is, I want to select only the top 5, okay, which is holding more CPU. So what I'm doing, I'm first sorting based on CPU, and I'm just printing the process name and CPU. Now this is giving the whole output. What I can do is I'll just say first 5. Okay, now I'll know only the top CPU hitters with this. Okay, so this is how you could do sorting. You can define on what basis it is going to sort. By default is ascending. If you want in descending, you can add this parameter and say what is the property on which you are going to apply the sorting, and then select the data based on like how you want this data to be appearing. Okay, this is how you could do a basic sorting. So why I'm telling all these things is you don't know what kind of scenario for which you are going to write a code, right? So let's say you're writing a code which has to scan each and every folder and then give an output of top files which are taking up more space. So in those scenarios, you have to do this sorting and all in place. So in that case, you will be using this sorting. Okay, all these things depending on the use case, you are going to use it. But it is good to know like these things exist. So that's why I'm just showing you some examples. Okay, so this is on the sorting part. So now, what we will do is we'll talk a little bit about variables. Okay, we have covered basics. So if I go back to the agenda, okay, we did the introduction, basic commands, understanding of get help, parameters. I think now you are very much familiar. You are also familiar with this part, and sorting. We covered all these things so far. Now we'll talk a little bit about variables because I see we have like 15 minutes. Let's see up to what extent we can cover, and then rest of the other concepts will continue on the second part. Okay. Now I've just opened a fresh window. Okay. In PowerShell, like how you could define a variable is just dollar and the variable name. Okay. If I say $a 10, that's it. Now the 10 value 10 is assigned to variable a. Okay, that's how you could print. And if I want to print a string, okay, I can also do like this. If I do $b, this is going to print uh, the data. Now, like you don't have to declare, it's not mandatory to declare what data type it is going to hold. By default, PowerShell is going to decide the data type. For example, okay, what I will do is I'll say a is equal to 10.5. Now let's see what data type this is. What you could do is you could do something like get type on that variable, which will give you what is the data type. In this case, it is double. For example, let's see what is the data type for B. It should be a string. Now, if I give just a number, right? In this case, C will have a data type of integer. Okay, this is how the very basics of defining a variable and fetching the data. Now, if I want to enforce a data type, what I can do is I can do something like this. I want to say this should hold only variable. For example, if I try to give any string, this is going to throw an error. Okay, because you are enforcing like this variable is going to hold only a integer data type. Similarly, you could do for string as well. If I want to hold only string, you could mention that as well. Okay, I cannot, I mean, if I supply number also, it though it holds the number, but if you look at the data type of a, let's see, it is a string but it's not an integer. Okay, so this is how you enforce a data type for a variable. Okay, again, this when it's going to be helpful is if you're writing a code where you want to have a validation in place before you take it to the next level. In those cases, if you don't want users to give some wrong inputs, you'll, I mean, have this kind of conditions. Okay, now if like I was just trying to, if I just do $a, it is printing, right? The better way to print is there is something called write host. Okay, this is another commandlet using which I can print the output, or in fact I can print any message. Okay, this is a test message, it will print. Okay, now if I want to add the variable output also, I can just add it like this. Okay, like this is the commandlet which you will be using for writing the output of some context into the terminal. Okay, you have to be very careful with the quotes. Okay, if I use double quotes, okay, just see what happens. Now the previous line I wrote with double quotes, right? If I use single quotes, if you are passing a variable, it will not be able to detect. Okay, that's why you have to use double quotes, so that if you are giving any variable, it's going to automatically detect. If it is just a normal text, you don't have to worry, you can just give it in single quotes. But if you are passing in a variable, it is better to go with double quotes, so that it can recognize that is a variable and it will print the correct value. Now, let's say I have defined like this, something like this. Okay, $D and get type, it is a integer. Now, I want this to be converted to some other data type. So what I can do is I can do something like T as, and I can say string. Now, if I check the get type, this will be a string. So you could convert the data type. Again, like if you have a string which is a valid string, and if you want to convert it as an integer, obviously it's not going to work. But let's say if you have something like this, okay, I'm saying string, and I'll say $B is equal to 10. For example, I'm collecting it like this. This I can convert it to integer because it is a number, right? So let's try this one real quick. Now if I check get type, and wait, am I missing something? Okay, I think it's not taking, but in runtime, if you want to convert, this is how you can use it. Ideally, this should have converted, but I'm not sure. Like, let's try it in other way. Okay, let me use a new variable. Now let's see what dollar. Okay, this is an integer. Now it is, maybe I was not able to use the same variable, but this is how you could convert it. So when this will be helpful is, okay, let's say right now B is a string, right? And C is a integer. If I'm doing any arithmetic operations, right? Dollar B. Okay, wait. I think for some reason it's not showing here, but we have given 10, right? But it is able to do the arithmetic operations correctly. Usually, if it is a string, so you will not see this. Okay, that's what I wanted to show. But this is the basics on variable. But again, you have something extra also. Like whatever I showed you is like basic of integer, string, etc. Okay. Additionally, you have arrays also, like where you could supply more than one value. Okay. Let's say 40. I'm giving like this multiple values, a list of objects. Now, if I want to, if I'm just printing A, it's going to print all the numbers. But if I want to specifically pull first element, right, I'll just do 0. This is the index number which I was talking about. If you are, okay, wait, I think it's taking what? Something is wrong. This is not correct. Let me clear this, or I'll close this window. I'll open a new one. Or let's go to the local PowerShell. I'll say $A is 10, 20, 30. Now, one, okay, like this, you could access the specific number of the index. Okay, I think in Python also it's the same. Okay, it will start with index 0, 1, 2, like that, depending on how many elements you have, it's going to give the number, and that's how you could access the specific items, like specific value of a given array. Okay, again, like you could add numbers also, and it's not like it's always going to be integers. You could also have string as well. Let's say I'm doing something like this. Okay, ABC and 20 and 30.5. I can have whatever data I want. But let's say if you want to enforce, okay, what you could do is you can say int, if you want to just hold int, and I can do something like this. So how many of you think this will work? If I hit enter, this is going to work, or it's going to throw some error? Based on what I have told you so far, just give it a guess whether this command will work or not if I hit enter. You can put it in chat. Yes, no, anything. I mean, it's fine if you are wrong also, don't worry. I just want some answers. Just to understand, like, if anyone is able to spot what is going to happen.
Gonna store it as a. I think it's
I'm sorry.
going to store it as like list or array. Not
Okay.
sure. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. What I will do is I'll maybe hit enter. So it is going to fail. So if you remember when we talked about get help, right? I told you if you want to give a list, okay, if you are doing anything explicitly, you have to add this square bracket. Okay, that's when it's going to support more entries, especially if you are defining something explicitly from your end. Okay, so that is what I just did. And now if I try to add, let's say I have something like this, and if I'm trying to add a string, it's going to fail. That's what you see here. Okay, so this is about array. And now there is one more concept called hash tables. Okay, where you could store, like what I can say is like a key value pair. Okay, so you could store a bunch of data and put it in a key value pair and access it. So for that, let's take one example. What I will do is I'll just say var1, and you'll do something like at the rate, and we'll just initialize an empty variable. Okay, what I will do is I'm going to add something like name. Okay, and I'll say Naveen, for example, and let's say city, and I'll say Chennai, and we'll say something like role, and I'll say engineer, for example. Now I just populated some data. If I'm printing this variable, it's giving name and its value, right? So you could use this. I mean, this is going to be helpful in when you build any script where you want to store output of something like key value and then process it at the end. So in those cases, you will use this hash table to load this data. If I want to access any of the value, let's say name, I'll do something like this. But if you have noticed, we have entered the data in some order, right? Name, then city, then role. But the output here, it is not in that specific order. Okay, by default, this hash table, it's not going to arrange the output in a specific order of what you are entering. So if you want to enforce the order, right, what I will do is, what you can do, like I'm just initializing another variable. I'll show you like how you could do that. I'm going to do same thing, but this time I'm going to declare everything in a single line. I'll say like this, and I'll say city. I'll put this in a code because it's a string, and I'll say Chennai. Now, wait, missing something. It's not allowing me to do. Okay, wait. Let's do like this. I'll say order. With this, I'll be enforcing the order. Wait, something is wrong. Let's try one more time. So what I'm doing, I'm just saying like I want this to be in ordered. So I'm just defining that at the beginning. Okay, and then I'm saying like first is name, and I'll say let's try. Okay, this is working, right? I just want to make sure like I'm not missing something. Okay, what we will do is I'll just say city, and I'll say Chennai, and enter. Now if you see the output of var3, so now this output is in a ordered way. Okay, that's how you can enforce an order. Okay, so this is about the hash table. Okay, I think we are hitting the time. So in next session, okay, I think that's all for today, the content. But in next session, right, I'll show you like how you could get the inputs from the users during the runtime. And once we are familiar with that, then we'll talk about looping. And once you know the looping concept, then we'll jump into writing some our own function. Like because whatever we did, the examples, whatever I've shown, right, you could write your own commandlets with your own logic, and then we'll see how that can be made reusable for others, and we'll build our own modules and all in next session. So if you have any questions, we can go for questions now. I don't know if it was like heavy or if you all got it, because I this silence is like kind of scary.
It was actually good.
I'm sorry, can you come again?
No, no, it was actually good. And I just want to know, like, your daily use of PowerShell in your workplace. Can you
The
share?
use case of PowerShell, is it?
Like, how do you use personally? You
Okay, I personally use it. So I handle databases, right? So I use it for all my database automation tasks, or if I want to manage anything on Azure or AWS using PowerShell from. Okay, so I work on multiple clouds, right? I can write my own custom modules if I want to, like instead of going through console from the command line itself, I can manage the servers from across the cloud. That is also possible. So anything which you do repetitively, especially on Windows platform or anything on cloud, it can be automated through PowerShell. So I use it for database deployments. If I want to provision a new server and install database, maybe in next session I'll show you, like there is a using PowerShell with Ansible. I can provision a SQL server from the Ansible machine with just a simple playbook, and in those cases, like we use PowerShell. It's going to be mixed of different tools. Maybe next session I'll show you with how you could use this with Ansible and do stuff. Because if I show those examples, right, without having this basics, it's going to be, it would be difficult. So in this case itself, right, if you see there, this has like, I think, AWS modules. If I do something like this is a command line window, but if I open PowerShell, this is a basically a EC2 instance which I picked for this demo. But if I do something like AWS, you'll see a bunch of commands which is related to AWS also, which is already pre-installed. Let's see if that is available here. If not, I'll also show you. Like I haven't talked about modules and all, like because after knowing this, then only it is better to talk about modules. Modules is nothing but like it will be like a package of specific functionality. Let's say AWS have their own modules and Azure have their own modules. Like that, you could create your own modules depending on your requirement, and you could do automation. So few examples which I showed, like stopping a service starting. Let's say you write a PowerShell script where you are going to apply a patch on a database server. Okay, so I could use the get service command line output to capture what is the state of my service before patching, and after patching I'll store that output in a separate file, and I can do something like compare the output of the before and after patching. If there is any difference, then it will notify. Something like that, we could use it for different use cases. So this is the modules which I was talking about. So I have this is AWS PowerShell modules, which is there on this machine. And if you go to Windows PowerShell gallery, so this is the PowerShell gallery, where you will have like you'll see all the modules, which I'll be talking about this in the next session. But for example, Azure has its own module. Similarly, if I pick for AWS, you have AWS PowerShell module. This is the module which you see in the server. This is this one. Like that, for each use case, there are some modules which is already available. But I will also show you how you could write your own module in the next session.
okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Okay. Yeah.
sir, if I want to create an infrastructure in cloud, what method would you recommend us as a DevOps engineer?
Okay, for infrastructure creation, Terraform is the best tool, or OpenTofu. Like there are infrastructure management tool, right? So Terraform is the best. Though you could create infrastructure with Python, PowerShell, or with Ansible, but Terraform is best, that is specialized for creating infrastructures, right, in cloud. So I would suggest to go for those tools. But if you are building something for cloud specific, then if it is AWS, you could also go for cloud formation. And if it is Azure, you have like ARM templates and Azure biceps. You could use all those things. It depends on the use case. In general, if you ask for a multi-cloud, like what would be the best approach, it would be Terraform, because it is like cloud native and you don't have to worry much. So in fact, like I was also building something for Terraform. Maybe if all those things are ready, we'll have one more session, something like this, where you could build from the scratch, where I could explain all the concepts for Terraform. I see a question from Vasant. In previous topic, you suggest get service from filtration, but in sorting you use git process. Can you say why you use that? Okay, see, I just picked a random example. So with get process also, I can do the same thing. The intention is just to show the sorting, right? If I want to show you a sorting example, it is good if I have a number so that you could easily relate it. If I go with get service, right, I don't have any specific number based on which I can sort. Okay, all these are like text. So if I want to filter, I could do it. But here also I can apply sorting. Okay, let's say for example, I'm doing sort object. Let's say I want to do it on status. Okay, and I'll say descending, for example. Now, if you see, these things are sorted. For example, now you see all the running service at the beginning, and then you see the status, right? All running this group, then you see all these stuff. It was just an example I picked, nothing much on that, just to show the example. Did that answer your question, Vasan? So,
So, yeah,
any
so one final question. So, yeah, I'm still, but why did you choose DevOps as your career stream? And what piece of advice would you give to future DevOps engineers?
Okay. So I started my career as a database administrator. Okay. I still do DBA work, but DevOps is something which I started adopting. It's like just a culture, right? So, like if you are doing automation, you could call yourself as a DevOps, where you integrate different stuffs. So that's how I started. So I mean, I work mostly on this automation part. So what advice I would give is like you just have to be, I mean, strong with the cloud. If you and Linux, let's forget about cloud also. Before that, you should be strong with Linux. Okay,
Okay.
because though the examples whatever I showed you, Windows is also used. I wouldn't deny that. It depends on the product what the company is using. If the company is using SQL servers, that will be mostly run on Windows, though it is supported on Linux, but it completely depends on the use case. Okay, so I mean the example I showed is on Windows so that you could easily practice, but same thing, similar thing could be done at the cloud as well. Like I could also run the commandlets from the Azure Cloud Shell, or I can also show example on the AWS as well, which I'll maybe talk about it later. But now going back to the thing, right? So you should be good with Linux so that at least the basic administration part, and then the networking. Okay, you should understand how the network works, how the IPs are assigned, CID range. If you go to the cloud, like most of the things are like managed easily, but how the peering works, how you could allow connections from one subnet or one VNet to other VNet, all those basic things, if you are getting good hold of it, you'll know better how infrastructure works, right? Then comes the tooling part. Like for example, if you want to specialize on the infrastructure automation side, you have to be familiar with Terraform. And then if then Ansible and Python. Okay, Python is also which is widely used for other post configuration things. If you want to do it in a larger scale, you would use that. So, and you should also be familiar with a tool which is going to integrate all these things. For example, it could be your Jenkins, or it could be GitLab or GitHub Actions. All these are like a CI/CD tool using which you could integrate multiple tools, right? So like this you could go step by step to see each phase where it is, and later part is like I mean obviously like Docker and containerization and all is there, but these are the initial things. Once you understand all these things, then you could go for like the containerization part and how Kubernetes is solving what problem. Those things you could touch on.
Sure, sure, understood. Yeah, as you said, start with OS, then networking, and finally the DevOps tools.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, Linux and networking as a starting thing, and then
mhm.
version controlling cloud, like that you could go with the next part.
Sure, sir. Yes, guys. Any other doubts, guys? Well, I guess let's wind up the session. So, yeah, as we wrap up, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all of you for attending the episode 10 of the AWS Cloud Club St. Joseph's Group of Institutions workshop. And a special thanks to Naveen Kumar for his time and valuable insights into PowerShell automation. Thank you, sir. And we truly appreciate your expertise and the knowledge you shared with us today. Thank you to the organizing team and the Cloud Computing DevOps Center for making this event possible, and to all the participants, your enthusiasm and engagement made the session essentials. Thank you once again, and have a great evening. And one last thing, we switch on your cameras such that we can take a selfie.
Actually, I was about to do it in the beginning, but I thought like everyone was like in off, so that's why I just kept it as it is. Maybe
Um,
I'll stop my
yeah.
screen.
So, guys, please switch on your cameras.
And by the way, like I'm just putting my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with me if you have any questions or any feedback about session. Also, feel free to drop, or you could also post your learning in LinkedIn so that others will know what you are learning. I would always recommend learning in public is a good thing, so that you will share it with the community, and a lot of other people will also get to know about your work. So you should start doing that.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. So, let's meet on the
Yes, yeah. Thanks for your participation. And let's see. Next session is going to be even more interesting. Okay. So we are going to
yeah, we
build
are waiting.
what we have done so far.